guys, welcome back. Hope you all are doing great. So, today we'll learn another concept that is very closely related to method overriding, that is method binding. Method binding is usually done either by compiler or JVM, and this whole video revolves around method overriding as well. So if you haven't watched the method overriding video, I would recommend you to watch it first, as that is a prerequisite to watch this video. If you already know the concept of method overriding, still, if you watch that video, uh, you might learn something new. And if you have already watched it, that's great. You can jump straight onto this video. Okay, so let's start. As we discussed in the method overriding video, we had two classes, class parent and class child, that extends the parent class. Now there is a method hello that is basically overridden in the child class. If we take the reference type as parent and the instance type as child and invoke the hello method from the child object, in this case the method from the child class should be called, because the JVM at runtime would invoke the hello method from the child class as it has been overridden in the child class. Okay, so let us quickly run this and test it. As we see, hello from child has been printed as per our expectations. So this was already discussed in the method overriding video. So now let's come to an important point. The compiler uses reference type to decide whether a method can be invoked from an object, whereas the JVM uses object type to decide whether a method can be invoked from an object. So what significance does that play? Okay, so now we already know that the child object would invoke the methods from the child class if they have been overridden, and we can think that even if they're not overridden and they are declared separately in the child class, then as well we could invoke the methods of the child class. So let's see. Now basically declaring a method by that is only in the child class and not in the parent. And I want to invoke the method by from the child class. Okay, here we see a compiler error. Firstly, let's see the compiler error. The method by is undefined for the type parent. Why does it say so? Because right now the compiler is used to compile the code. So compiler uses the reference type to decide whether a method can be invoked from an object. So it sees the reference type as parent, it sees no method declared as by inside the parent, and thus it throws a compiler error. It doesn't see the methods inside the child class for this case. But at runtime, JVM would always look at the object type, that is the child, that whether a method is declared inside the child or not. If it's not declared, it would obviously invoke the method from the parent. But if it is declared, if it is overridden, then the method from the child class would only be executed. Okay, so now obviously, if I uncomment this by method from the parent as well, the compiler would be happy that okay, I see a by method in the parent class now, and the code compiles very well. So this is basically known as method binding, which we just discussed. So there are two types of binding: early binding and late binding. Early binding is the binding that is done by the compiler. However, late binding is the binding that is done by the JVM. So as we just saw that in case of instance methods, late binding takes place. Okay, so about the properties of late binding and early binding in case of classes. So the members that cannot be overridden would be early bound. Basically, all the members that cannot be overridden, in those cases, early binding would take place. That is, compiler would handle all the work by itself, and JVM would not have to worry about which method to invoke at the runtime. So, as we saw in the method overriding video, that static fields, static methods, and instance fields could not be overridden. So, all these three members are always early bound. Next, the members that can be overridden would be late bound, the opposite of what we saw in the early binding statement. So as we discussed in the method overriding video, only instance methods can be overridden. So instance methods are always late bound. That is, they are bound by the JVM. So this was pretty much it about method binding. I tried to split method overriding and method binding in two different videos because they are different concepts. However, they are very much interrelated with each other. So if you have any doubt regarding method binding, I would recommend you to watch method overriding video first and then come on to this. You will very well understand this video. Still, if you have any doubt, you can ask me in the comment section below and I would be more than happy to answer it. So, I'll meet you in the next video. Till then, bye bye. Have a good day.